Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, India's GDP growth for the fourth quarter of 24-25 accelerates to 7.4%, full year growth at 6.5%. India's diplomatic outreach following Operation Sindoor continues. Indian parliamentarians emphasize New Delhi's zero-tolerance policy towards terror. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates projects, lays the foundation of multiple development ventures worth billions of dollars in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. On board INS Vikrant, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh warns Pakistan of Indian Navy's might, says India will use every method to root out terrorism. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel accepts Witkoff's new Gaza truce proposal. Hamas says new US proposed peace deal does not meet demands. The Indian economy grew by 6.5% in real terms in the recently concluded financial year 24-25, according to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation's official data that was released on Friday. According to NSO's second advanced estimates, the country's economy was projected to grow at 6.5% in 24-25. The Reserve Bank of India had projected 6.5% GDP growth for the fiscal year 24-25. According to official data, the economy grew 8.7% and 7.2% respectively in 21-22 and 22-23. The Ministry of Finance, in a report in March 25, anticipated that Indian economy would achieve a growth rate of 6.5% in 24-25 and the 6.5% in 24-25 despite considerable external headwinds. And to talk more about that, I'm joined by my colleague Mark Patrick Lynn, who joins us live from the newsroom. Namaskar, Mark.
Namaskar.
Mark, what do you attribute the economy growing at 6.5, and how has been the growth throughout the year if we look at the growth figures in all the quarters of the year?
Yes, Amritpal, the growth at 6.5 is because of a strong growth in the fourth quarter, which is 7.4% from the January to March quarter of this year. And the previous quarters were not that high, 5.6% in the first quarter, April to June, 5.6 again from the July to September quarter, and the October to December quarter saw 6.2%. So it's actually from October onwards that the economy has been accelerating, picking up a little bit, and has now clocked 7.4% in this quarter from March up to March, January to March. It has been a result of a strong domestic demand, because what we see is that the private final consumption expenditure, which is really the expenditure of the consumption, which is the demand that's pulling in the economy, has grown to about 7.3%. It was about 4% in the previous year. So this is what has drawn in a lot of the consumption is increasing, and as a result of that, growth has taken place. Also, agricultural growth has taken place at the rate of about 3.8%, and the construction sector has grown at about 8.6%, which means that there has been demand for the infrastructure, components, things like cement, steel, which are basically the core sectors of the economy. Amritpal.
Mark, also if we look at the external factors, the world is not doing so well when it comes to growth or even demand because of, supply chain disruptions, the ongoing wars. What led to the Indian economy not performing so bad?
So India is always seen as an outlier as far as its integration with the global economy is concerned. Naturally, India does depend on the global supply chains, but India on its own produces enough for its own markets. The domestic demand is very strong. Internal manufacturing has also increased as a result of the domestic demand. There's enough demand within India itself to sustain a certain amount of growth every year, which is the reason why India will continue to grow despite the global economy facing headwinds of various kinds. Also, India will start supplying goods which, for instance, in the high technology space, we talk about smartphones. India will start supplying a lot more of these to the global market. And this would also help India to be, the China plus one model. India getting in some of the requirements for the global supply chain because of certain difficulties in other countries of the world. But India, of course, there are a lot of opportunities that India presents because India continues to get in a lot of investments, because India continues to be a market which is large, as I said, the domestic market, but India also is a manufacturing base at a reasonably low cost. The labor costs are going to be less here in India, and over a period of time, not only in the services sector, because the services is the largest component of growth in our country, not only services, but manufacturing too has begun to increase substantially.
All right. We leave it there. Mark, many thanks for joining us and giving us that perspective. And addressing the CIA Business Summit in New Delhi on Friday, Niti Aayog CEO BVR Subramaniam stated that transforming the manufacturing sector is crucial to India, for India to become a developed nation. He emphasized the need for India's manufacturing sector to grow at 15% annually to contribute 25% to the nation's GDP by 2047.
We need a manufacturing transformation which will take people out of agriculture, somewhere around 40-45% of population, move them to manufacturing, which means, that's why I mentioned the HR, the education transformation. These two are closely linked. So I think manufacturing transformation is essential for India to become Vikasit. And I think that's very, very, very key. Manufacturing sector should be growing around 15% at least. That's only way it can rise from its current share to 25% over a long term.
Sindoor continues with Indian MPs across party lines underlining India's commitment to countering terrorism and deepening cooperation. An all-party delegation of the parliamentarians led by JDU MP Sanjay Kumar Jha on Friday met with the chairman of the Nahad Atul Ulama Executive Board and the Khalil, the committee member of the Nahad Atul Ulama in Indonesia, the world's largest Islamic organization, and sought their support against violence and religious extremism. The leader of the delegation urged NU leaders to support India and condemn cross-border terrorism to give a strong message to the world.
हम लोगों ने कहा भी किस तरह से धर्म के नाम पे पूछा गया किस धर्म के हैं, कलमा पढ़ने के लिए कहा गया, कपड़े उतारे गए उनके, और तब उसके बाद उनको परिवार के सामने उनको क्लोज रेंज से गोली मारी। और ये जो संस्था चलाते हैं लार्जेस्ट मुस्लिम ग्रुप का, ये एक बात को माने कि जो मुस्लिम रिलीजन है और जो मॉडर्निटी है, जो मॉडर्न दुनिया हो रहा है, इसको कैसे कोप अप करे इस्लाम, इस पर ये काम कर रहा है। ये अप्रिशिएट कर रहे थे हम लोग की फीलिंग और बात को, और इनको लग रहा था कि नहीं गड़बड़ हुआ है।
And condemning terrorism and the attack on innocent civilians, Ulil said that he felt the pain of India and called for India and Indonesia to work hand in hand to promote peace and economic development.
We discussed many issues, the current issues of Pakistan and India, tensions, and also the issue of the peace and harmony in the regions, the issue of the challenge of religious extremism and terrorism.
And the delegation also paid floral tributes to Mahatma Gandhi's statue at the Gandhi Memorial Intercontinental School in Jakarta on Friday. And the all-party delegation led by DMK MP Kanimoi, who is in Riga, Latvia, held meetings with the delegation from Latvia in Latvian Saima. The delegation from the Latvian side is being led by the chairperson in the Foreign Affairs Committee in the Latvian Parliament. The all-party delegation led by BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad on Friday visited the Danish Parliament along with Deputy Speaker and member of the Presidium of Parliament, Lars Christian Braskmat, and he met with Danish leaders. Addressing media, Ravi Shankar Prasad appreciated Denmark was the first to express solidarity with India in wake of the Pahalgam attack.
We had a wonderful meeting with him. He understood the problem of terrorism, conveyed his views, and what we appreciate is Denmark was the first to convey solidarity.
And moving on to West Asia now, a U.S. plan for Gaza proposes a 60-day ceasefire and the release of 28 Israeli hostages alive and dead in the first week in exchange for release of 1,236 Palestinian prisoners and the remains of 180 dead Palestinians. The document, which says the plan is guaranteed by U.S. President Donald Trump and mediators Egypt and Qatar, includes sending humanitarian aid to Gaza as soon as Hamas signs off on the ceasefire agreement. The aid will be delivered by the United Nations, the Red Crescent and other agreed channels. As per Israeli media, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the families of the hostages held in Gaza that Israel had accepted a deal presented by the U.S. President, Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff. Netanyahu's office did not confirm the reports, but White House spokeswoman Caroline Levitt told reporters in Washington that Israel had signed off on the proposal. The proposal is in its initial phase and would include a 60-day ceasefire and humanitarian aid flowing through UN-run operations.
Special Envoy Witkoff and the President submitted a ceasefire proposal to Hamas that Israel backed and supported. Israel signed off on this proposal before it was sent to Hamas. I can also confirm that those discussions are continuing, and we hope that a ceasefire in Gaza will take place so we can return all of the hostages home, and that's been a priority from this administration from the beginning. I won't comment further as we are in the midst of this right now.
Israel has insisted that Hamas disarm completely and be dismantled as a military and governing force, and that all 58 hostages still held in Gaza be returned before it will agree to end the conflict. Hamas has rejected the demand to give up its weapons and says Israel must pull out its troops out of Gaza and commit to ending the conflict. And Hamas has officially said that a new Israeli-approved U.S. plan for a Gaza truce fell short of its demands, but the group was still reviewing it. Bassem Naim of Hamas's political bureau said that Israel's response meant the continuation of killing and famine. He added it does not meet any of Hamas's demands, which are foremost among them is halting the war and famine. And Donald Trump will be holding a press conference with billionaire and Tesla CEO Elon Musk later today. Musk's tenure in the administration is ending today. President Trump earlier on Thursday in a social media post had praised Elon Musk. He had called him terrific and said that although it is the last day for Musk, but he will always be with the administration and will be helping all the way. Musk's 130-day mandate as a special government employee in the Trump administration was set to expire around 30th May. The administration has said that Dodd's efforts to restructure and shrink the federal government will continue. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that, said on Thursday that the trading partners, including Japan, were continuing to negotiate with the U.S. in good faith, and there has been no change in their attitude since the U.S. Trade Court ruled against the Trump administration's latest tariffs.
Brett, we have not seen any of that in terms of our trading partners. They are coming to us in good faith and trying to complete the deals before the 90-day pause ends. So we've seen no change in their attitude in the past 48 hours. As a matter of fact, I have a very large Japanese delegation coming to my office first thing tomorrow morning.
And still to come up on this edition of DD India Live, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri meets business leaders in the US, focuses on technology and trade cooperation. And India and the European Union to carry out mega naval exercise in the Indian Ocean in June.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Amritpal Singh. Germany's ruling coalition agreed on a raft of measures to jumpstart the country's sluggish economy. To talk more about that, I'm joined by DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu from Berlin. Chiponda, give us a sense of what is the German government planning?
Thanks for having me. Well, it is quite a list. The German government is planning to lower energy prices for industrial companies. It wants to introduce special tax depreciation options for businesses that make investments in Germany. And the ruling coalition also wants to set up a multi-billion euro fund. Now, of course, that is something that was already expected. And on top of all of that, it also wants to get rid of the national supply chain law, speed up the approval process for energy projects, and accelerate broadband expansion. But while the government has agreed on all of that, it will take some time for all the measures to be adopted. And the expectation is that they will become law between the beginning and end of the summer.
Okay. And Chiponda, what measures could jumpstart the economy?
Well, the first challenge that all of these measures face before they can be turned into law is that they need the approval of Germany's upper legislative chamber, which is the Bundesrat. And that looks a bit different from the Bundestag, the lower house, because it has representatives from the ruling parties in the governments of the federal states. So the government of conservatives and social democrats will also need the buy-in for its plans from the Green Party and the Left Party as well. Now, those two parties are, of course, in the opposition on the federal level. So we will have to wait and see whether they will get their plan through. And of course, we need to recognize that the government is under pressure to get this plan through because all the economic forecasts say that Germany's economy will contract this year after shrinking last year and 2023.
And how much of a challenge is the economy for Germany?
Well, the economy is also a major political issue. The far-right AfD is the biggest opposition party. 1 in 5 German voters voted for the party in the last federal elections, and that means the government will need to show that it can bring about the economic change that voters want to see. Now, the latest unemployment figures show that the number of people out of work in Germany increased at a quicker pace in May. And that is mainly due to weakness in the manufacturing sector, which is, of course, the backbone of Germany's economy. Now, more than 1 in 5 companies say that they are planning to cut their workforce in Germany, and only 13% of them are planning to make new hires. And that is according to a survey by Germany's Chamber of Industry and Commerce. So reform that jumpstarts the economy is, of course, very much needed, and an economic turnaround is also decisive for the political futures of the parties that are in the government, but also, of course, for the countries too.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chiponda Chimbelu. Thank you for joining us. And moving on, Asia's premier defense summit, Shangri-La Dialogue, is beginning in Singapore today. French President Emmanuel Macron will deliver the keynote address. Chief of Defence Staff of India, General Anil Chauhan, is representing India. He interacted with Charles Fries, the Deputy Secretary General for Peace, Security and Defence of the European Union. Both leaders discussed the future roadmap on regional security, particularly in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack, and India's standpoint on Op Sindoor. They also exchanged views on bilateral defense cooperation, including maritime security, cyber warfare, military training, and also crisis management. The deliberations underscore the shared commitment to security and stability towards ensuring peace and tranquility in the Indo-Pacific and the Indian Ocean region. Various defense ministers, military chiefs, policy makers, and strategic experts from across the globe will be discussing pressing regional security challenges and formulate fresh approaches at the Shangri-La Dialogue. And ahead of the dialogue, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth met with ASEAN defense officials. During the meeting, Hegseth said that he was committed to deter aggression by communist China and increase security and stability in the region. The meeting came ahead of the annual Shangri-La Dialogue Defense and Security Summit in Singapore, which will run throughout this weekend.
The United States is committed to working with our allies and partners to deter aggression by Communist China in the Indo-Pacific. And we're doing this, in particular, reestablishing deterrence through strength. By standing shoulder to shoulder with you, we will unite against those who threaten a free and open Indo-Pacific. A key part of our success will be empowering allies and partners, like all of you, to even better defend your territory and to ensure peace and security in this region. That's what we want. That's our overarching message here. We seek and we want peace and security and stability.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Uttar Pradesh's Kanpur on Friday, where he laid the foundation stone and inaugurated 15 mega developmental projects worth over 47,573 crore rupees, which is about $5.6 billion, aimed at boosting the region's infrastructure and connectivity. He flagged off the Kanpur Metro's new corridor between Chunniganj and Nayaganj. The section of the Kanpur Metro Rail project is worth over 2,120 crore rupees. The metro section includes 14 planned stations with 5 new underground stations integrating key city landmarks and commercial hubs into the metro network. The Prime Minister also distributed Ayushman cards to beneficiaries above the age of 70 years. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said that the world witnessed the country's righteous anger against terrorism in the form of Operation Sindoor.
पाकिस्तान का स्टेट और नॉन स्टेट एक्टर ये अब खेल चलने वाला नहीं है। अगर मैं सीधी कानपुरिया में कहूं तो दुश्मन कहीं भी हो झोंक दिया जाएगा।
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh aboard India's first indigenously built aircraft carrier INS Vikrant on Friday warned Pakistan of Indian Navy's unmatched strength, stating that the Navy joined its sister forces in active combat operation during Operation Sindoor. Pakistan would have faced worse outcome than in 1971, surmising that it could have been divided into 4 parts. The Defence Minister was speaking during his visit to INS Vikrant, currently deployed in the Arabian Sea, where he reviewed operational readiness and praised the Navy's role in neutralizing threats during the operation. The Defence Minister interacted with Indian Navy personnel, reviewed operational readiness and praised the Navy's role in it played in Op Sindoor. Rajnath Singh praised the Indian Navy for effectively containing Pakistani naval forces, highlighting their readiness and dominance that prevented Pakistan from challenging India at sea. The European Union and India announced joint naval exercises in the Indian Ocean. The joint exercise, scheduled for June 1st to 3rd, will involve the Indian Navy warships and 2 frigates. The joint exercise will focus on counter-piracy operations and enhanced communication to strengthen maritime security cooperation. The exercise involves Indian Navy ships and EU Naval Force frigates, aiming to boost maritime security cooperation. Both parties reaffirmed their commitment to a free, open, inclusive and rules-based maritime order in the Indo-Pacific region. And that's all in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR codes that you see on your screen to download. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh. From my entire team here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India Live. Goodbye.